Hello, hello. It always brings me so much joy to speak in front of audiences like this. Really does. I want you to take a moment to write down 5 tasks on your work-related to-do list this week. 5 tasks, 5 items that you need to complete this week for work. Yes, many of you are like, 5? I can write 15, 20, 30, 5. Do you have those 5? You feel like you've gotten them down? Now, I want to know if there is one of those tasks that you can pass on to somebody else. One of them, maybe even 2, perhaps even 3. Now, what if I told you that your response to that question of, is there a task that I can pass on to somebody else, depends on your gender, depends on whether you're a woman or a man, the likelihood of you delegating. Now, why might that be the case? When I finish this talk, you'll have a little bit more clarity on why this is the case. Now, if you look at any bookstore or any article, when they talk about delegation, they make it very clear that delegation is something we should do as managers. Why is it important to delegate? Because it allows us to be more efficient, effective, reduces our overload, and even helps those around us to perform and to step up, engage in step-up opportunities. But the question that my colleagues and I had was, who is more likely to delegate, men or women? And we had that question based on our personal and professional experiences. So as a researcher, we decided we'd go out and go ahead and test this question. And we ran an experiment. In this experiment, we had participants who were males and females, and we gave them a scenario. We told them, you're the VP of marketing at a global marketing company. You have a really busy week. You have 12 items on your work-related to-do list, and one of them is interviewing a candidate for an important role. And you have a junior employee who's also quite busy. What we were interested in is who passes on the interview to their junior employee. And here's what we found. That women were less likely to pass on the interview to their junior employee. And we were also curious about, well, are there some emotions that might be related to why women might be less likely to pass on this task? We found that women said that they'd feel even more guilt if their employee performed the interview poorly. So when we saw these findings, we said, okay, there's more digging to do here. We need to get more into this idea of delegation and why women might feel more guilt, why they might be less likely to pass this on. So we got some field evidence. We asked men and women several survey questions. How much and how effective are you at delegating? And what did we learn? That women reported that they delegated less to their employees. However, they still said they were equally as effective at delegating, but they wished they would delegate more. So again, we're on to something here. There's something about this gender difference in delegation. So we wanted to probe some more, ran another experiment, wanted to see if given the opportunity, would women delegate? So here's what we did. We had male and female undergraduate and graduate students. We put them in a leadership role. They had to engage in several tasks. They also had a junior employee who was working with them on the task. And we were curious about who would be more likely to delegate. And we wanted to delve more into these emotions. Remember earlier I said guilt? Guilt of maybe overburdening your subordinate. And also we wanted to look at, what, are you not delegating because you're fearful that there'll be some repercussions, maybe backlash? So we asked some questions about that. And here's what we found. That as we expected, women were less likely to delegate the tasks, and they reported that they felt more guilt when they did delegate and more fear of backlash when they did delegate. So we want to get more into this subjective experience of delegating. What are some of the other emotions that are associated with delegation? So we asked women and men, managers, gave them a survey about delegation. What are some of the emotions? How does delegation make you feel? We found that women felt more negative mood. They felt less positive mood. They also felt more anxiety about delegating, and they felt more guilt about delegating. So here we go, even more negative emotions associated with delegating relative to men, which suggests that might be why they delegate less. But we then wanted to also learn more about some of the traits women and men associate with delegation. So we asked women and men, how much do you associate delegation with the following traits? Here are some of the traits we asked. Other-oriented, developmental, supportive. Why these traits? Because they are communal in nature. And we want to see, okay, are men and women, do they view things differently when it comes to the communal aspect of delegation? Because you are helping somebody develop if you pass things on. Other set of traits we asked were related more to dominance and agency. Does delegation make you feel confident, aggressive? And here's why we asked these specific traits. Because these traits are linked to gender roles. There are gender roles in society that we all subscribe to in some way or another. And when you think about communal, women are expected to be communal and relational and warm, and we get rewarded for engaging in behaviors that are communal. And so communality is aligned with the gender role stereotype. So if women associated delegation with communal traits, you would expect them to engage in it more, because doing so would help and be aligned with this gender role stereotypes that we have. Now, if women associated delegation with more agentic traits, we know that women get penalized for engaging in more dominant behaviors. It's misaligned with the gender role stereotype. So if delegation is viewed as more agentic, then doing so would hurt women because it's misaligned with the gender role stereotype. So that's why we ask those questions about traits. And let me show you what we found. Women found delegation to be equally communal and agentic. What about men? They didn't see delegation as agentic as women. And so what does this mean? Our hypothesis, our idea, was that if women find a behavior to be equally communal and agentic, then the agency aspects will loom larger in their heads. They'll be more fearful of the repercussions of engaging in it, and as a result, might not engage in the behavior. So another way to put it is we consider delegation to be a type of behavior that is a gender role paradoxical. Because on one hand, it is communal, and we're rewarded for that. On the other hand, it is agentic. We're penalized for that. And we won't engage in these behaviors if they are behaviors where there's both. So what do we know so far? Oh, that women are less likely to delegate an interview. They view delegation as more agentic. They have more negative mood, less positive mood associated with delegation. When you give them someone, they will not delegate to them. All these good things. Now, as a researcher, my goal is always to figure out how to fix any differences. It's not good enough to just identify them. It's about fixing them. So our key question was, how do we get women to delegate? So we just asked women, senior executives, what would make you delegate? And here's what they said. Helping employees with their careers, helping them develop, letting them know that, they'll grow from it. More things along those lines. And so one key theme in all of these reports of what would get women to delegate is if you focus on the communal aspects of delegation. So we said, let's test this out. Would this work? If we reframe delegation as more communal, would that change the negative emotions that women have associated with delegation? So we had male and female MBAs, and we put them in a leadership position where they had a subordinate. They had to give feedback to their subordinate, and there were some tasks embedded in the scenario that they had to delegate. And all we did was for half of them, we told them, by the way, delegation helps your subordinates. It lets them grow and develop, and you're a good mentor if you delegate. The other half, we gave no information about delegation or its benefits. And we wanted to see if just framing delegation in a communal way would change the negative emotions that they might have associated with delegation. And here's what we found. That when you frame delegation as communal, that helps subordinates, women felt less negative mood, less negative affect prior to delegating. What did we find with the men? The framing didn't matter in terms of their mood. So there we have it. Women associate delegation with so much more negative mood and anxiety, but if we just change this, and if we remind ourselves that delegation is actually helping those around us, it is good for them, and it is also good for us, that's when we do it more. So here are some things I want to leave you with. First, I want you to think about and go back to those tasks that you wrote down and ask yourself, what is hindering me from delegating any of these? And let me tell you, you will come up with some great things. Here's what some women came up with when we asked that question. Oh, I can do it better. I forgot I can delegate. I don't want to be seen as less capable. You'll come up with all of these things. That's okay, but just recognize that this is something that you might be doing. Also, ask yourself, is this critical for my career? Or is it something that just pulls my heartstrings? Is it something that's just more personally? Understand why you are doing something and not passing it on. The other thing I want you to think about is who is going to suffer if you don't delegate it? And I'm sorry to say, quite often the answer is you. You will. So please pass it on. But I also want you to think about who is going to grow and develop if you do delegate that task. And often it's those who are reporting to you, who want to do well, and it's also you because you're stretching yourself, engaging in a behavior that you typically might not engage in. So my hope is that after hearing all this, that in this coming week and in weeks to come, you'll feel even more comfortable, even more confident, passing on the many tasks on the to-do list for you, because in doing so, you will certainly grow and develop. Thank you very much.